I guess I should probably like hit play on on Butler Duck, huh?
Good old Duck.
We love Duck here.
We love Duck.
There's Dahlia and her stupid tie.
Stupid big tie.
Comically large tie. And Sybil, whose only character flaw is that she's a cop.
I mean, that's a pretty big flaw. But...
It is a very big flaw. Incredibly big flaw. Sybil, how could you do this to us? Sybil, you're technically illegally passing. That's a no-pass zone? Can't believe she would do this.
She's allowed to break the law. She's a cop. That's the thing.
Well, now she's fucking dead. So... Probably. I mean... Can't believe Harry would hit someone like this. Okay. Well, hi, we're here. We're on a quest for the Silent Hills. Will I elaborate on that? Absolutely not.
We're gonna get.
No, I will. We're gonna
collect the whole 11 hills.
We're gonna. Is that how many there are?
I genuinely just said a number.
It doesn't feel entirely wrong.
We're gonna unite the 6 pyramid heads.
Oh, no. Please. Anything but.
We're not a big fan of Pyramid Head outside of Silent Hill 2. And also Dead by Daylight.
Yeah. we love Pyramid Head and Dead by Daylight. It's very good. Where is Cheryl? No, whole plan for all of this is to just figure out objectively why are the post-Team Silent Hill games actual ass? And to do that we have to play every single game. Which is gonna be a whole undertaking, you know? It took a bit to debate what order we were gonna do things in, and we have determined that just alternating between the good and the bad is probably the best, because otherwise we just go for it.
Sorry, the like first like batch of Silent Hill games that were actually made by Team Silent are all really good, and then the second batch are all pretty terrible. So we didn't want to do them in release order, because then it'd just be good games and then horrible games.
Just the whole stint of awful. I looked into chronological order that the games like happen in the universe, and those are also incredibly similar to release dates. So
Origins goes to number 1, and honestly, I feel like doing a good game.
Yeah. We had Dead Space 2, which was great. And then before that, it was just all bad games, wasn't it? We've just been on a stint of not good games recently.
Cadelco was pretty good most of the way.
Cadelco was great up until the very end. That's
It's not
true.
like the James arc.
Yeah, wasn't good. is the thing. Sorry, I'm just kind of like wandering around uselessly while we chat. Footsteps? A wheelchair? Sorry.
I don't think we can really like get items or anything until after the
Yeah.
the first little bit.
I just wanted to not just stand around.
Cheryl? Is
That
that
is a pretty
Cheryl?
cool bit.
Such a great opening to a game, though.
Where are you
Yeah.
going?
Just weird and ominous, and
wait,
immediately
stop.
goes tits up. Cheryl, come back! Beep, come back. Yeah, I don't have much to say at the moment, because it's just, they're just here. Gotta get Cheryl.
Yeah.
Gotta find
Why
my
did
baby.
she? Why are you running away, Cheryl? Come back.
Cheryl, please. Do you think Homecoming took the whole Josh is running away from you constantly from this, but not necessarily understanding that there is a reason?
Yeah, there's stuff going on there.
What is that? Alright, I have to reacquaint myself with tank controls. Oh god. It's fine. You can hear the sirens in the background. It's just what a nice, lovely town we have found ourselves in. Alright.
Like, this pet's really cool.
Mm-hmm. I hear that wheelchair. Well, I've got bugs flying around me because I got a light out.
Wheelchair?
What's this doing here?
What?
James, wheelchairs are a thing. It's okay. Don't worry, buddy. What is this?
I do
Don't worry about it.
genuinely love the aesthetic in Silent Hill 1. Like,
It's very
like
good.
weird old things, and this game's beautiful to me. Genuinely, for PS1, the graphics are
It
about
holds
as good as
up.
it gets.
Absolutely. Nah, they're still real. I still really like it, even to this day.
Yeah.
What's going on?
All the like indie PS1 horror games are like extremely going for this.
I don't know what what Harry was trying to say there, but it's fine actually.
Yeah.
We'll just not be here anymore, maybe. Can't kick him. Okay. It has been a minute since I've played. And I didn't think you could get out, but, you know, it's worth a try.
Blocked by fence?
Ah! Well, that's Silent Hill 1. Thanks for being here, everyone. Get to
We on
do Origins
the-
next time.
Are we on the European version?
Yes, I believe so.
That's why the weird sloth bears and not grey kids.
Mm-hmm.
Understood.
Yeah, it was the only version that I could find when I like downloaded downloaded this originally. I think
Was I
since then I
dreaming?
have found the US version, but I just haven't
How do you feel?
downloaded it yet.
It's
TLDR,
fine. Got run
Europe
over
just
by a
took issue
truck.
with Harry
I'm
killing
all right, I guess.
childlike monsters, right?
Glad to hear.
Yeah, child-shaped ghouls.
Child adjacent critters.
I think the like bear thing is a thing that shows up
Wait a
once
second,
in
I'm just a
the
tourist.
in the original game, right?
came here
In
for
the US
vacation.
release, but
I
they
just
just
got here.
made that the regular enemy for
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
in place of the children.
I'd like to find out myself.
Phew! Excuse me.
In a lot of terms, it does make
Have you
more
seen a
sense for
little
them not
girl?
to be weird little sloth men, but that's fine because we
Just
all
turned
know.
7 last
We all
month.
know it's supposed to be
Short,
the horrible
black-haired.
little children that made fun of
My
and beat up
daughter.
Alessa. Well, just
Sorry.
as Floppy would say, just
The
keep
only
that
person I've seen in this
in
town is you.
mind.
Where
Don't
is
worry about
everybody?
I'm gonna get said that a lot. I was
I
Yeah.
excited.
you, believe me.
it.
But from what I can tell,
Very stoked about
something
it.
bizarre's going on. That's all I know. What's your name?
Harry. Harry Mason.
Sybil Bennett. I'm a police officer from Brams, the next town over. The phones are all dead, and the radio too. I'm going back to call in some reinforcements.
Good luck getting out.
Hold it.
Right.
Where do you think you're going?
My daughter. I've got to find her.
No way.
But
It's
Sybil.
dangerous out there.
Exactly.
In that case, I need to
She's
find
a
her now.
baby.
Cheryl's my little girl. I can't just leave her out there by herself.
Have you got a gun?
No.
I think that's entrapment, Sybil. You
Take
can't
this.
ask me that.
And hope you don't have to use it. Now listen to me. Before you pull the trigger, know who you're shooting. And don't do it unless you have to. And don't go blasting me by mistake. Got it?
Don't worry, Sybil. I'm gonna do my best not to do a shoot on you.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's further run.
You do best to stay nearby. I'll be back with help as quick as I can.
The voice acting is still very 90s. However, I think they did a really, really good job, considering.
Yeah.
Give me that flashlight. Give me that map.
It's not quite Resident Evil original voice acting.
Does that poster say study, damn it?
Study, damn it.
Gotta study.
Is that a person with a gun telling you to study?
Potentially. Yes?
Huh.
It's the
Best study.
homework police. Okay, hold on. Before we... That's not what I'm looking for. Is this it? This is it! We'll just, equip and reload that. Is my flashlight on? No, and I'm not allowed to turn it on. Understood.
Yeah, I think he does that on his own. I thought he did.
Okay. Can I leave? Or maybe we shouldn't, Harry. Ooh, 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 other health drink. And
Found
a
something
knife.
useful.
A knife!
Knife is rubbish and we'll probably never equip it.
We'll never use it. It will just sit in our pocket. Seems broken. I'm sure it's fine. Radio not broken,
What's that?
actually.
Huh. Radio. What's going on with that radio?
What's going on with that radio?
Radio, why are you making that noise? Well... Am I allowed to leave? No. Okay. Well,
Been
Harry...
picked by dinosaurs a lot.
This is
Please
not
stop.
a dream. What's happening to this place?
Harry, I need you to do a stomp for me, buddy. No, it's dead already. Okay, understood. You wanna take
Gives
that
you
pocket
that one
radio?
for free.
But I want to stomp. I am going to keep hitting pause anytime I want to get to my menu. Just as a heads up, that is a thing that I will be doing, and you just get to deal with it. Good question. I don't want to go back to that alley though. It's bad there.
We can walk all over now. We can find items and things.
It's true. like all this ammo over here?
Like all the ammo on the back bench.
Give me that ammo. I don't plan on doing a whole bunch of combat, if not necessary, but you know, we'll do a shoot here and there.
I generally fight most of the enemies in the like dungeons, but just run
Yeah.
away in the overworld.
Yeah. Once you clear them out of the dungeon, they're just gone.
Yeah,
They
and
only
I bet
respawn in
wiggle around a
Martha?
lot.
Yeah. Look, it's very easy to get lost, even with a map.
And you know, if you miss the map, it's not a good situation.
I didn't want to go here just yet.
Silent Hill fundamentals. They put in this big old fog because the PlayStation couldn't handle having that much draw distance, but actually it kind of works. It's kind of cool with it. You can't really see very far, but if you're near monsters, the radials start going haywire.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same for the first 3 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have very limited vision, but also
But
you'll
can
know
kind
if
of
there's
figure out
someone
what's going on.
around.
Yeah, it's a really
Most of the
like
time.
interesting compromise given like the limitations of technology, and I like it. It works really well.
Yeah.
Do not block area.
There's like some enemies that don't have the radio.
Yeah.
Or some areas where it don't work.
Yeah, there's some areas that it doesn't work. I think in the sewer it
Yeah.
doesn't work. I'll let Harry have a little breather. Okay, this is not the alley that we were in previously, which means I want to look here. Excuse me while I just run up to a thing and then turn slightly.
Go look for health drinks.
Who is behind me?
Pterodactyl. I hear flapping.
It's flapping over there. Not off limits to me. A dog's head.
That's a dog's head.
You wanna pick that up, Harry? Give me that health drink. Camera, please. Run into that. It's fine. Can I have this? Key of Wood Demand. Oh, I didn't realize I could get that this early. Alright. Well, here we are. No flapping. You have to leave me alone. Where are we? Just in relation to things.
Oh, we're about to walk out of town.
Great!
Oh, I
Let's
know,
get
this
out
is
of
the
here.
bridge that just leads to the other side of Silent Hill, isn't it?
Yeah. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse. Just wiggle. That's how you resolve
Yeah.
that problem.
Run serpentine.
Seems like we can't get here. great.
Oh, nice.
Again, not necessarily what I was intending to find, but that'll be nice for later on.
Just doing a speed run over here.
Think there are less enemies now than there would be when we would go for those normally. So, you know, again, just want to see where I am. I mean,
Harry will put an X on the map if you can't go down that road.
yeah.
Because a lot of the roads have kind of holes in them now.
They're not great. The infrastructure in Silent Hill leaves something to be desired. They could be better. This could hurt someone. Why
Yeah,
have
the
they done
bottomless
that?
pit. Someone could trip.
Fuck. Well, we have
Nice.
all the keys. For when, I think that's like on our way to the elementary? Sir, you have to leave me alone. Great. So that's nice.
Yeah. Might as well run and pick him up.
Again, saves us a little time later on. It's down here.
Normally bumble around for a while before I go where I'm supposed to. Just you're gonna need those items anyway. You might as well do the
Yeah,
The
just
run
do the
around right
collection
away.
now. Get it done and over with, please. Don't get me. Try to go left over here. It's just gonna be a lot of like wandering for the first little while. Oh, never mind. Can't go here actually.
It's in the ambiance. It sucks here.
It's not good, but you know what? Better than the other world. Only marginally so, but still better.
No
Real
idea
bad
what
there. I hear dog. I hear dog. I see dog. Let Harry have a moment.
you mean. He's wibbling. Poor guy. You know, Harry's not like a soldier man. He's not good with his gun. It warns you, like, in the manual, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, Harry's not really, like, a gun guy. He's not gonna be a good shot if the thing he's shooting at is far away or if he's moving.
Oh, this is a problem.
He's having dog problems. Probably worth it for the first aid kit, though.
Yep. Okay, leave me alone, dog. Dogs. Many dog. Plural.
Dogs don't do a whole lot of damage, and that's a big heal. Although,
I've been hit a few times by dog and pterodactyl. But we got a first aid kit out of it, so like I'm pleased with that. I think I hear another dog.
dogs
Dog.
are so bad if you can just keep running.
Yeah. Gotta run.
Yeah, you need space to go into.
Ugh. Dogs.
There's a couple dogs. It's bad
Dogs,
there.
please. It's not
They're
great.
bad dogs.
Hey, what's this? Dog house, Levin Street. You want to look at these ones? No. No, he doesn't. Those ones are useless. Don't care about that paper.
Can we get that key now?
Potentially, I am gonna use just one more of those. Just so I feel better about it. We are technically on 11th Street, so...
Yeah. No, there's a lot of dogs on 11th Street just because of the picture with the...
What do you
I
mean there's
don't-
a lot of dogs?
Why is there
Oh,
a
God.
doghouse here? There's no dog. I can't see a dog anywhere. As the dog leaps through his jugular.
One of my all-time favorite just memes in general, but Silent Hill related things. Thank you for running away, dogs. I appreciated that. Just gonna keep going. Guess we could go find where Cheryl is now.
Yeah. Had a good wander. You'd think the dogs would be faster than you if you just run in a straight line, but they're actually not. You just keep moving. The pterodactyls are faster than you if they want to be. Sometimes they just kind of wibble around.
You can just
So
serpentine.
you want to run side to side if you hear them close. Sorry, I'm just
Just
doing.
don't give them the time. No, you're fine.
I have to kind of game
apologize.
FAQs mode sometimes to think of things to say.
This is fair, because I will just be quiet, because I am game mode. There's also just there's not a lot happening at the moment. Okay, please.
There's a little bit.
Just a tiny bit. Dog. Other dog. Beware of dog. That dog is looking at us.
Oh.
Dog, please. I don't know how to deal with the dog disappointment. Dog's appointment.
Not the dog's appointment.
Alright. Cheryl, are you here?
Generally, we don't want to fight the enemies here because we have so much space to maneuver in that it's not really worth it if we have limited bullets and stuff.
Yeah. And you will need those later. Although we have pipe now, so that's exciting.
Pipe's not good, but it's a big upgrade over the knife, which
Yeah.
is too small to hit anything ever.
It's nice in corridors with enemies that aren't particularly quick. Specifically thinking of like gray children and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of them, and you don't necessarily want to waste all of your bullets.
I'm not a big fan of the melee weapons until you get the hammer.
Fair. Sketchbook cover this picture. It's me. I can see the resemblance. First picture Cheryl drew in the sketchbook I gave her on the 5th birthday. Do you want to pick it up then? You're just gonna leave it there.
Oh.
Okay. All right, Harry. That's a choice.
I think the hammers, even the hammer, like, it does a lot of damage, but it's mostly good because the nurses don't move around a lot.
Yeah. It hits very hard.
Yeah. Good
It
against
is-
tanky, slow enemies that just kind of
Yeah.
stalk towards you.
I could just wander about. Alright, to school. Oh god!
Look.
Just dodge it. It's that easy.
Yeah.
Fuck off!
Yeah. Hit those.
He knew where I was going. It was rude. We want to go down 11th Street, so we take a left. Let's go, Harry. Stop!
Horrible.
Terrible creatures.
Harry will be kicked by pterodactyls a lot. It's
So
very
many
hard to do
times.
anything about it.
I just gotta deal with it.
Hey.
Get in there! Harry! Wonderful. We have 2 of those. That's the wrong button. That's my map. How is our health? We're doing fine.
Still on green.
Moving towards yellow, but you know, it's locked.
Just a couple of little kicks away from. I don't actually know how much health we're on. It's hard to tell.
I think we're like 1 or 2 kicks away from being on yellow.
Yeah.
We're doing okay. Is the thing. For the bullets. We will do a
You don't, like-
save, but I
Oh.
want to look first. Sorry.
I'm just gonna show you don't like walk slower or anything in this when you're low on health.
You just gotta
Um,
keep checking.
Like in Resident Evil, though, they start limping and it's horrible, so you like can't go on low health. You're not.
Yeah.
Being on low health is death.
It's a bad thing that you don't want to do.
Oh, hey, we already found all the keys.
It's nice that he just automatically uses all of them.
Yeah.
Also, you may not be able to hear this, but rip it and rip it.
I didn't hear it.
Tragic. Discord, you're rude.
Did it sound like this?
Yeah, it did. Rippo. Alright, let's just write our little notes down. Let somebody know what's going on in case, you know, they ever find it. Let's get out of here. Actually, I want to take just a quick look at my inventory. We have 126 bullets already. Beautiful. I am going to equip that for now. Okay. Great.
Well, looking pretty good.
I am pleased with this. It is pretty good about giving you enough ammo to get you through stuff.
Yeah, as long as you don't like try and fight every single enemy,
Yeah.
you'll probably be fine.
So I do imagine we will have an excess, because I almost never shoot things. But, you know, maybe we'll go a little hog wild. Please, Harry.
3 seemed a lot more stingy with bullets and things.
3
This
is
one's free.
incredibly rude about it, and there are so many enemies in that you, like, you could technically run around, but you would be using up, like, all of your health. And so it's like, you're better off attacking them, but also you just use all of your resources. I mean, we found out last year that, like, you know, I soft locked myself out of the very end of 3 because I didn't have enough bullets to finish the boss fight. Nope. You bitch.
That's the thing as well. I think in Silent Hill 1, if you don't bring enough bullets to the boss fight, the last boss, you just win after a little while if you can dodge its moves.
I didn't know that. That's a very nice thing to have in a video game.
I think that's true.
I mean, I'd like to believe it. Can you not, sir? Where am I?
Pretty sure I heard someone talk about it.
I don't think there are too many items around here. Please go away. So I think we'll just run around over here. What are you?
Even though you are pretty likely to have enough bullets to kill the last boss.
Yeah, but sometimes you do it bad.
Sometimes. Many birds out. All of them terrible.
Horrible birds. Get them out of here. Okay. You don't really have stamina in this. I just feel bad when I make Harry run forever. Sometimes I just gotta stop and let him breathe for a minute.
Does wibble.
Listen, I know I wouldn't be able to run that much. So, just want to be nice to my boy. Best dad. Oh god, it's locked. Are we... Did I run past the school? No, we're almost there. Okay.
Just a long road.
Hedge is endless.
So
There we
much
go.
hedge.
All this for dang elementary. Leave me alone, dogs. Hello? Cheryl? Are you here? Who are you? That's a school map.
Nice.
We want that.
God, I'm gonna have so many doors to make off.
It's true, and you know I am going to touch every single one of them.
Yeah.
Well, someone's grunting out there.
That all works.
This is a safe spot, isn't it? Yeah. But are
Yeah.
there items in here? In this here nurse's office?
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I thought there were
there
health
is.
stuff.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Alright. Harry, please. Stop getting stuck on corners, buddy.
The health drinks were getting like a 1/3 heal. The first aid kits are like 2/3. And then there is another item later that's a full heal from whatever health you're on.
Ample.
But since you can't be on 0 health or you die, the first aid kit's normally good enough.
Yeah.
So those are pretty valuable.
Alright, what do we got here?
Ampoules you don't want to get too precious with, because if you're on red, you're on red. You can't tell if you're like 1 hit from death or like 2 or 3.
Yeah, if you're on red and you've got them, you might as well use them. Don't save them for anything, really. If you don't have enough, honestly, I usually will just use health drinks first, especially if you have like an overabundance of them. There are so many out there. But don't be stingy with your health, with your first aid kits in the ampoules. Just use them. That's what they're there for. 12 o'clock, place with songs and sound. Silver guidepost is untapped and lost tongues, awakening at the ordained order. Okay, that's cool.
Cool.
5 o'clock, darkness that brings the choking heat. Flames render the silence, awakening the hungry beast. Open times, door to beckon prey. That's about the clock tower?
They all have times on them.
Yeah. Alchemy Laboratory. Gold in an old man's palm, the future hidden in his fist. Exchange for sage's water. I have to get acid for the man in the science lab. Chemistry lab?
Alchemy lab.
Yeah. Same thing. Whoa.
Magic hut.
Magic hut.
Ah, I remember this.
It's a picture of a door. I don't know who drew it, but it is certainly in bad taste.
Harry does not approve of these arts.
Harry Mason, not an edgelord. Understood.
Harry is a dead elemental. He's the purest form of dead.
No other type here. Just dad. I mean, it goes without saying that Harry is, like, the most dad of dads. But also is, like, one of the few good dads in horror.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, ultimate dad. I was mentioning it the other day, but it's like, he and Ethan, from RE7 are the best dads. I should not be scratching my face while trying to run into a new room. Hey,
it's like a trope that dads always have to be horrible, did awful things. And I like when the horror dads aren't the worst.
Sir. Okay, buddies.
This is an issue.
You know what?
Oh, red.
It's fine.
The grey children are sometimes sloths. Are very slow, but they actually do more damage than the dogs and pterodactyls, I think. It might just be because there's generally more than one.
Yeah. No.
I think you're aiming at the dead one.
Buddy. Harry.
You do have to finish off an enemy with his funny little stomp.
Yeah. Oops.
Oh, you can shoot him again, but you'd ideally
would you
not
do that?
spend the bullet.
Don't do that. That's silly.
Yeah.
Okay. I will keep trying to use the pipe, but, you know.
Okay.
Swap over as necessary. We'll come back and check these doors. I want to see if I can unlock. Okay, I guess I just like fully ran past the front door. You wanna?
There's no ammo in there, Cash.
Oh, but what if there's a guy? Also, what if ammo?
Well, and that wouldn't be allowed because this is the ladies' bathroom.
Okay, but what if there's a guy here?
There's a guy here.
Fuck off, little dude.
Yeah, that fucking lunge is like the same range as the pipe. Good luck if you're trying to use the dang knife on him.
Yeah, that's not happening. Ever. It's never happening. Harry doesn't want to open any of those. He doesn't need to go.
It's fair.
Is it?
No.
It's unlocked. Harry, how do you mark that on your map?
I think he just
Oh.
gets.
He just
Oh,
puts an
okay.
arrow through it now.
Yeah. He just deleted the cross. Now it's arrows.
Alright. Can I... Camera, I would love to see where I'm walking. Consider...
There are ways to like flip the stupid camera around, but you can't
There we go.
always. Sucks.
Just couldn't remember which button it was. It's L2. If you're able to, you can use L2. That goes back outside, doesn't it? Did I go through that door already? I must have, right?
Think you've been through that one? Yeah.
Yeah. Lock is jammed.
Yeah, if you get the lock is jammed message, that means you never have to think about that door again. If you get anything else, you either like open it from the other side or there's a key you need for it.
Yeah.
You know, unless he just walks in when you click it. But that's pretty self-explanatory.
Whoa. Music. Right. Okay. So we've got the chemistry lab here. Which is wild to have in an elementary, I think.
Yeah. I don't think we should have been allowed to mess around with stuff in high school. I don't know why elementary school would have that.
Hello? Just very scary music in this very normal room. Yeah, take that chemical.
The music in Sono 1 is like actually amazing how they did it.
It's so good.
It's just like starts off very quiet and then like slowly adds layers.
Going overhand with that was a choice, Harry, but that's fine. You want to kick him?
Just got the reach to get him.
Yeah, I just need to... I remember, like, how I used to pull those off without, like, getting hurt, and I just have to start, like, backing up as it gets closer.
Okay.
Is
Nice.
the thing. We'll see if I can, like, continue to do it without getting hurt.
It's not too bad if you get hit once and then they fall down and then you can just wail on them.
Yeah. But speaking of, we did get hurt a little bit previously. I would like to resolve that now. I missed a door.
I got messed up the one time by the two of them. Yeah, they do a lot more damage than the things outside.
Yeah, they're very rude.
They don't have that much health, and they're not like fast, but you're in much more enclosed spaces. And it is sometimes hard to get Harry to aim at the right thing.
Yeah. They're between like the narrow corridors and the fact that they can just kind of lunge at you.
Yeah, it's a big old lunge.
Yeah. It's a statue of an old man's hand. The fist is shut tight, as if to never let go. Well, he's gonna let go. I'm gonna make him. Excuse me. Just gonna stare at Harry's ass for a little bit, and then we get the gold medallion.
Nice.
Oh, right, the times tell me which side I'm supposed to put them on. It was...
That
10,
one was...
5, and 12 were the times, right?
Yeah. Was that one 10?
That's a powerful question.
We can always go back and check. It's fine.
Yeah. What art? Pig. Do we have anything cool in here? Just a giraffe and an elephant.
Giraffes are kind of cool.
Giraffes are neat.
Elephants
Those
are cool.
I like elephants. Oh, shit.
Scare rhinos off by flicking water at them. Rhinos have really bad eyesight and they can't tell what's going on. They just see like a big cloud
Oh,
of
jeez.
space appearing. This is an issue.
This is a little bit of an issue. Grab that, Harry, and then run this way. And then just leave. Oh!
Oh, those guys!
Baby! I love those little guys. Can you not, sir? Okay, you know what? I wasn't gonna do this.
We might need to get some of the corridors clear. Because we might be, you know, coming back.
Harry?
I don't think he ever adjusts his tagging on... Like, if you're shooting one guy, you'll never swap to the next guy. You have to quickly stop aiming and then start again.
Yeah, but I'm still gonna get mad about it.
That's fair. But you're still gonna miss.
Yeah. We'll just go ahead and use one of those. Can I see what's over here? Is anyone causing this noise? Where'd my little guy go?
Little penguin.
That's supposed to be Alessa. Vague echo of her.
Just a really scared little guy.
Yeah.
But also makes funny noises and looks a bit like a penguin.
Yeah! I haven't touched these doors, but they go into the rooms that we've already been into, so we'll go here, and then we'll immediately leave.
That's not a good room.
No! And then this one should be just a fine room that I don't necessarily have to, like, quickly get out of. We will leave quickly, but we don't have to. Oh, excuse me. We go down. And by down, I mean here.
Harry. Hey.
Harry. We need to be able to see, bud. Okay, go kick. Go kick. Go kick. Good job, bud. Oop, not that. Locker room. I know this room.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Hi, Kit Kat. It's just a
Just
cat.
a cat.
Sounds like the cat ate a monkey. That's definitely what happened, and nothing else.
Yeah.
There's nothing inside. What a room.
Oh.
I meant to access my map, because I think I went the wrong way. Yeah. Okay. Kick him! Kick him! Good job, Harry. You're doing
For
great,
the,
buddy.
like stomp, the idea is, you know, it's you're fighting like horrible monsters you don't really want to go near, so you don't want to close the distance to finish them off. But also like it's kind of cathartic to do once you've like
Yeah.
finished a fight to end it with the finisher move, the big old kick. Oh, it's this puzzle.
It's a white key, and then another white key, and then a black key, and then a white key, and then a black key. But I don't know what they are, and I never remember, and I'm very bad at this puzzle. But it's fine because it doesn't look like it opens right now.
The trick to it is that the keys that don't make a noise when you click them are the ones that are used in the puzzle.
Yeah, but
That's so bad from there, but like I don't know. It's
I
not
just-
really some of the Sandhill puzzles are kind of
a
way
little?
too much, and like I
Yeah.
don't know how anyone would work that one out the first time.
Big old trial and error. Um,
It's trial and error, but you also the thing you're trialing is probably the only keys that don't work.
yeah.
The ones that make a noise are wrong.
Yeah. Let's horrible sounds. It's fine. We haven't
Yeah,
checked
it's the
this
sound
hallway
hall.
yet. Yes. It's just the sound hall. Nope, leave me alone. Harry. Harry. You were walking forward and I was trying to tell you to go backwards. That was a little scary, bud.
Man was wibbling.
Wibbling so hard. I wanted to check this hallway first, but I guess we can go down here. What's the worst that could happen in a basement in a horror game? Nothing happens.
What's the worst basement in a horror game?
Oh boy.
Tell you what could happen in a basement in a horror game: ghost wolves. Nobody wants that.
The fucking ghost wolves. Horrible. Horrible, awful ghost wolves. I had forgotten about those.
That's a callback to a bad indie game from 2 years ago.
Forever ago. I think they've like officially like gotten it out of early release. So we might need to revisit that at some point.
Could do. Didn't you, last time you looked, they'd removed the ghost wolves, right?
I think they had made it easier. I don't think they had like removed them. Either that or knowing that Ghost Wolf was a problem, I did everything in my power to make sure they didn't show up. Because they were really bad, actually.
It was a puzzle that like didn't all fit on the screen, so you had to. I don't know, it's just very annoying.
Yeah, it wasn't great. They did it real bad. Harry. Kick him. Kick him.
Harry, friend, we need to talk about priorities.
Just a little bit, please. I need to reload. I don't need to reload, actually, but I'm going to. We're still doing fine.
Shooting the ones in the hallways and playing it by ear in the actual rooms.
Yeah.
'Cause we don't need to go in all of the rooms, and we don't get anything for like killing the enemies. Oh, here, penguins.
Babies!
They will set off the radio, but they are completely harmless.
Look at them. They're just little guys. Now they're gone. I love them.
They're the same kind of thing as the monsters. They still cause the same radio interference, but they are non-hostile.
They just wander around and make silly noises.
Penguin noises.
Yeah. We going here? No, lock is jammed. That's unlocked now, though. Which is great, because we can pretty much access everywhere now.
Yeah.
Or at least all the places that we can access are accessible.
Yeah.
I haven't checked.
Ground floor and basement were good.
Yeah, I need to finish the classrooms on the west side upstairs. And I do need to check these doors. But I don't think we can leave. Oh. You want me to open that door for you, buddy? I'm sorry, I can't.
Damn.
Just a little guy.
Just a little guy.
Sorry, I love them.
They're very good. They fall down sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
walk around.
Here. Alright. Love you, little buddy. Take care. Stay out of trouble. I guess we could try and put this coin that we have away. Oh!
That's a good.
Harry, please. Kick. Kick. Good job, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, they've got the appropriate color on them.
Nice.
So let's just do a reload, and we'll use that there. Whoa! And then we get the other one from the piano, but
Need a
I need to-
piano key.
yeah, which I think is in one of the classrooms that we haven't checked yet. Okay. Just trying to get a general idea of how to get there.
Does a pretty good job of annotating his map, does Harry?
Yeah, very thorough, and I appreciate that.
Puzzle hints show up as question marks. So if there's a very important item, he just writes it down. Piano is in the music room.
Listen, he wants to make sure that he knows where everything is, so he can easily get there in the future. I understand and I respect this. I meant to access my map. Okay, this is where we need to be, but we do have the roof as well to check. But it's locked, so, you know. Surprise! No roof access for us. Is it just this entire hallway that we haven't looked at?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
We went
Oh,
the other way
boy.
around, so...
Ah!
Oh, geez.
Ah!
The
Glad-
other one's not.
Yeah, he just sort of wasn't paying attention, and you know what? That's cool. That's cool of him.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. He can continue to not pay attention to me, actually. Alright, nothing here. Do you need to go touch that other door because I have to? Please kick Harry. Thank you, bud. And then we go through here and we immediately turn around and leave. Perfect! Look at that! And then we gotta check the bathrooms. For ammo.
So I think we can unlock the door to the hall from this side.
This is too many boys.
Story boys!
Thanks for the ammo. I appreciate that. Just reload again. Also ammo in the toilet.
Got ammo in the toilet.
Just bringing that up.
I didn't see any ammo in the toilet.
You okay in there, buddy? Can I get you some water? A little snack? Don't worry about it. It's just Alessa crying. I'm sure she's fine. She's not fine. She's very not fine. Then we can unlock this. And I can touch this door. Sorry, I have to mark them all. If I'm gonna mark a majority of them, I gotta mark them all. Gotta do it. Didn't touch the library door on the other side of the hall. This is the wrong door. Harry, I don't know where I am, and I just looked at the map. Ah! And maybe they do come back. Maybe they're just really rude.
Gross.
You?
I remember being able to clear them out, but I might be crazy.
Is a baby? Hello? Oh!
3 babies.
Hi, little guys! would like to hug them, but I cannot.
No,
So I'll just
they have no
let them-
corporeal form.
Yeah, so I'll just let them walk through my legs, and we can pretend that there was a hug. No special books here. No special book here. No useful books here. No useful books.
Why are books so terrible?
Powerful question. Maybe squeaking. Hello? You're not a baby. We'll just resolve the non-baby situation over here.
That's fair.
No special books. No special book. No need to read any of these books. No
There's a-
useful books.
Kind of auspicious poster on the bookcase behind you. I might be wrong. It looks like the one on the wall over there, actually. Yeah, it's nothing. Sorry.
No, that's okay. We did unlock this, though, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's just a little guy over there. I'll just use one of those. I know I'm kind of going through those, but, you know, what can you do?
Might as well put all the health in Harry.
Yeah, he
Oh.
deserves it. Harry deserved health. Alright. Maybe I just need to look at the piano a bit more. Gone a little too far. Otherwise, I might have just missed the key, which, like, you know, is
Yeah.
entirely
Hang on,
possible.
I need to.
Oh, jeez. Do what you gotta. I will continue to look for
It's fine.
a key. Oh, okay. Perfect.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good, man.
Yeah.
I know there wasn't anything in here, but I figured I would double check. Is there? Hold on. I know one of these lockers does a thing when we're in the other world. But
Once you've got the gold medallion and you put it in the clock tower, the piano just opens.
okay.
Sorry.
No, that's we've done it. It's happening. I thought that was the case,
Okay.
or thought that could potentially be it. But I also vaguely remember having to get a key. Like, there's so many keys though that it's fine.
It's a lot of keys.
No. I'm just hitting keys at this point. Because I'm can't be bothered with it. What's our solution here?
Oh, I could look it up. Sorry. Which
I
ones don't
mean-
make a noise? We could try and work it out.
Far left black key. Far right black key. Second white key. Fifth white key. And sixth white key.
Okay. What's the poem?
We got the greedy pelican first. First flew the greedy pelican, eager for the reward, white wings flailing. Then came a silent dove flying beyond the pelican as far as he could. So that's the furthest.
So the opposite sides.
Yeah. So first white key, last white key.
Makes sense.
First then last. Raven flies in,
Raven's
flying
first
higher than
blackbird.
Yeah.
So that's
Higher than the
gotta be
dove.
the last black key.
Yeah. It's the last black. Swan glides in to find a peaceful spot next to another bird. That's going to be the middle white.
Yeah.
Finally, out comes a crow, coming quickly to a stop, yawning in the napping. First black.
Okay. I think it's possible that the first and second white key are reversed, and also, if that's the case, the third and fifth black keys are reversed.
Oh, depending on whether it's going left to right or right to left.
Because he said he was like a lazy guy at the end. Which probably means he's the last one.
Or he took.
But then 3 said he was higher than the dove, which is 2.
Okay.
And next to another bird could mean either the pelican or the dove.
Well, let's
Sorry.
try this one first. Is it that one? Oh. Fuck. Okay, hold on.
I got. So it's either this.
First white, last black, middle white, first black. Is what it was.
Ah,
Because the lazy one doesn't go very far, right? So he'd be the,
Oh, yeah, that
the
makes
first
sense.
one. Yeah. Hey, we figured it out.
I think that's what I said, but I got. And I tried to change the pen, and it was an awful pen that you could barely see, and I don't know why.
No.
So all I did was change the color.
It's fine. We got it. Didn't need no guide. I just
Go first
remembered.
try. It's
Yeah.
just that the keys that don't make a noise. Because if you click a key and it makes a noise, you're like, oh, this is doing a thing. This is correct. And if you click a key and it doesn't, you're like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah. It's just a little.
Guess that's not part of this. It
it's
makes
a little
sense
confusing.
that since they're part of the mechanism, they don't make a noise when you click them. It's just not how human
Not how
brain
you would
works.
usually
How
interpret it. Yeah.
reward centers of brain function.
Yeah. Oh, right. I have to tell game to put thing in. Silver moon. You wanna Fruity, no! Oh, door is locked. It stopped at 12? So we have to go turn on
It's up to 5,
the
it said,
boiler.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, stopped at 5. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Sorry.
No, this is fine. This is fine.
You were right. It's just you said the wrong thing, so my brain was like,
No,
mad.
This makes sense, and oh god,
Ooh.
it's fine. I knew what I meant, but I did not communicate it great. We gotta go turn on the boiler, because it's where all the big scary sounds are. And the boiler scares Alessa. She doesn't like it.
Or less.
She's scared of everything. Understandably so. But it sounds like a big old monster. Alright. I'm assuming it did it?
It turned from red to green, and it didn't say that there were no power or anything.
Yeah.
So
So
we have to assume.
I assume it did it?
Unless there's more bits you wiggle around.
I think that's it. Oh jeez. No, get off! Go away! Just kind of get stuck on him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Horrible.
It's not great. I am going to go to the save spot,
Okay.
which is behind me, actually.
Just loop around through the corridors so you don't walk into the two lads again.
I could.
Or you could just go get them.
Gonna go get him. Harry, please. You bastard! Can't just throw yourself the moment I come through the door.
Can though.
Rude.
You can do it, and he just did.
Yeah. Gonna write down in my diary that some stupid guy jumped on me and it was horrible. And now I'm mad. Oh my god.
Jerk pretty well on that lunge.
Horrible. It's bad. How are we doing? We're okay.
We're on orange now.
Wait until we get to to red. I'll
That's
use the
fine.
first aid kit. 'Cause I got a
Ooh.
couple of those. I hear those sirens.
Oh,
Got water bottles everywhere?
we don't have to worry about the enemies we didn't kill there ever again.
It's true.
That's nice.
We do have to worry about enemies here now, though.
Yeah.
Where am I?
You're in the courtyard, bud.
Looks pretty similar to what you just saw.
Weird,
Have I
huh?
been here before?
Harry, please.
I don't remember this being here before.
I wouldn't worry about it. It's
Looks
very
cool.
fine and normal. Yeah. Yeah.
It's for hopscotch, I think.
It's a tense game of hopscotch.
Oh, the sounds are worse now.
Yeah. Somebody is honking.
I'm gonna quickly run to the loo before we get right into it.
Do it. You know what? I should probably do the same.
Alright, quick
That's a
break.
good-
And then we
good idea.
explore the deck waltz school.
Woo! It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I'm back. But I don't know that Fruity is. But that's fine. We can wait a minute. Gives me a chance to snack on some of my candy corn. Because it's that time of year where candy corn is in the stores. And we love it.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
You banned regresses.
Yeah,
How could you?
easily. I just type /ban regresses. Easy peasy. Not yours.
Yeah, it's bad here now.
Ah, Harry, keep that light on! Harry, why would you do this? Ah! Okay. Oof. What's this? I see that. I see that Robbie toy. Without a head.
Oh.
Ball. Right. We need to take that to the roof.
Yeah, I remember
think.
what that's for.
Yeah.
It's another kind of silly puzzle, but when you know, it's fine. It's just another, like, you're probably not gonna work this out.
It's definitely a little strange, but if you know, you know. Okay,
Yeah.
let me see. I should check all of the doors in this hallway first. Why did the door make that noise? Give me that. Give me that. And
Oh, jeez.
give me
I
that.
realize you're on red.
I did. I knew.
Oh.
It's because we got grabbed. Those guys
So
hurt a
that's
lot.
you have to do. So in Silent Hill, you switch between the like the. It's not the real world, but like there's the light version and the dark version. Neither of these are actually the real world.
They're all both
Where-
bad places tangentially related to the reality that we're familiar with.
Yeah, if you were in the real world, you'd just be in like a rundown former like tourist town, and you would simply leave. It would be fine. But you know, there's levels to this, and the dark world is worse.
It's
It's got
not good.
the rusty metal and blood kind of aesthetic going.
We have to talk to whoever designed this place, because their decor options are questionable at best.
Yeah.
Just wanted to open that door. Fuck. No! Oh god!
Oh, it's three of them.
And there is absolutely nothing in here. Great!
Well, now we know.
Ooh,
I fucking need that.
oh, that's my map. Now we're doing alright.
Yeah.
For now.
Harry's okay.
Lock is jammed. Okay, cool.
That's good, because otherwise we'd had to open it.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to open the bad things. It's
Mm.
locked. No, Harry. Harry! You should aim at the one that's still coming at you.
Harry, please.
Who is? Oh.
That's another guy.
Okay. Wonderful. Where am I? Right, okay. I know where we are. This is the infirmary.
We are in the same space as before, and we use the same map. It's just a weird, horrible version of the same space as before.
Yeah.
Whereas the light world is like the same, like the building and things are the same. The dark world, things get wibbled around a little bit.
Just make it
Gets
really gross
it
and
gets bad.
awful.
Yeah.
So it's not a place that you'd actually want to spend time in. Really?
I don't think I'd want to be there.
Mm-mm. Even as a joke, I don't want to be here.
No.
It's bad and miserable, and I feel like I would get tetanus just from looking around. So.
Yeah. How do the Silent Hill protagonists avoid tetanus in this rusty metal hell? A wheelchair?
Fuck! I knew there
Sorry.
was one coming up behind me, and I just didn't run fast enough. But also, wheelchair.
What?
Kick him. Oof. Oh!
Oh, nice.
A wheelchair? What is it doing here? Again, Harry, children can use wheelchairs. Disabled people exist in schools. It's
Why would
fine.
there be a wheelchair in a school? Harry, there's no reason there wouldn't be a wheelchair in a school.
Right? Come on, buddy. Also, that's like the least concerning thing here specifically.
Yeah.
So...
Doesn't have anything to say about anything else.
Everything else is normal and fine. Any items over here? No. Okay. I do have the door, so it's no keyhole or even a knob. If I push it, it moves a bit, but it certainly won't open. What's this? It's for that card we got, bud. You know, the one that looks like the door. Hello? Took a weirdly long time to load up. Anything?
I think we do have to check all the bathrooms because there's a shotgun in one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's anything in the bathrooms. There's no ammo in the toilet, only shotgun.
Is that a bug?
I think it's a bug on the other side of the door.
Okay. Oh, and I hear a sloth guy. That's fine. They can stay on the other side of the door.
Yeah.
Give me that handgun ammo. And the shotgun shells. Got dudes just hanging in the stalls.
Yeah, it's not
No.
good here.
Not where I would choose to hang out personally, but, you know. To each their own. Okay, we can't go over there. Who is grunting?
Just someone.
There wasn't anything in there. Aside from the
Wait,
shotgun
there's
shells and
second
the...
floor now.
Oh! Yeah!
Yeah. Also, the door we came through doesn't exist, but that's fine.
Hmm. Strange. Where is...
I think you were on that wall somewhere. Oh, jeez. Can we not go back? Because we kind of need to.
this could be a bit of a problem.
A little bit.
Normal
Wacko.
guys in the stalls. And there's nothing for me to interact with over here. That sink is weirdly clean. Can I? No.
Maybe the other sink is weirdly dirty. No, it's the dark world. That's normal.
Yeah, that's what we expect. That's standard here.
Ah,
Oh,
there's the door. Is it just there sometimes? Oh, we're back downstairs. That's why it
yeah.
takes a really long time to load when you go and... I understand now.
Yeah. Weird. Okay.
Yeah, reality kind of breaks down when you're wondering about the other world.
Nothing and everything is real. It's fine. I see you. I see you.
See that.
But it is the horrible guy just hanging out here.
Horrible guy.
Give me that shotgun. Hanging body. This is sick. As in not fun, not as in wonderful. Okay. Can we unlock you now? Alright, what are we looking at? What do we got here? Jesus. Can we not hit me? Maybe? Fuck off. Fuck off, bug.
Stupid bugs.
Okay,
Ah,
well,
he's shooting the fucking bug.
that's a choice. No! Handled. I
Yeah.
probably should not have attacked everything that was in here, but I got scared.
Yeah, but you were mad.
Oh boy!
Harry, we need to stop dying.
Yeah. But we haven't died.
Yeah, but he's not doing well.
Mm-mm. Having a hard time.
We have a little double-barreled shotgun now. A double-barreled shotgun holds 6 shells somehow.
Don't worry about it.
The shotgun's just it just does more damage than the pistol, like a lot more damage.
It's very good, specifically for boss fights.
Yeah, and it still shoots real quick.
Yeah.
The ammo's a little bit more precious.
Don't need quite as much of it though. Can't use the phone. What?
I couldn't use the phone.
Daddy, help me. Daddy, where are you?
Cheryl!
I'm sure she's fine.
Probably fine.
Yep. Okay. Great. Harry, where are we trying to go, bud? It's unlocked. We cannot go down. Great. I guess that's some.
Could we only go
Tootsies up
down
there.
from the other side
Yeah.
before? Yeah.
Yeah. from the southeast side.
It's a little harder to get around in the Dark World school. There's a lot of extra fences.
Listen, they're just trying to make sure the children are safe.
They're not safe.
as safe as they can be. No safety here. It's jammed. It's jammed. It's locked. No door exists here.
Heck.
It's locked.
Well, the ones over there were where we did the puzzle stuff before, right?
Yeah.
Well, they were the science rooms.
Mm-hmm. I want to look at my map.
They do weird stuff in Origins where you unlock a door in one world and it opens it in the other, and it's it's never been how it works.
Oh, where were you shooting? I've hit my map button. Harry, now is not the time. You're still aiming for the wrong guy, bud.
Harry.
Fuck. Okay. Kick that one. Oh.
Hey.
And then kick that one. Kick.
He's having trouble, is Harry?
Yeah, it's not going great for him right now.
He's not good at things. Health
Give
drink.
me that, which I should check my health, because kind of got grabbed there a bit.
We're in orange again.
We're doing okay. Orange is fine. Orange still means he can take, another 3 hits.
Harry goes to red.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'd like to keep him in the green-yellow range, but if we're in orange, it's still okay.
Yeah, it's still fine. Sure, it's fine.
It could be worse. Stop.
Oh, he's doing the bugs.
Oh my god.
Just get out of there. The bugs you don't actually need to stomp, which is nice.
Yeah. They go down pretty easy, but they're horrible and I hate them.
They do almost no damage, but he will lock onto them when there's real enemies around.
Harry's not good at prioritizing, is the thing.
Yeah. I approve just running straight through that corridor. It's a bad place.
Fuck off, Harry. Oh my god.
Oh.
Right. Lockers.
Oh,
I did
here
miss the
again.
music room, but I think it's locked.
What?
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just Meat Locker.
It's the blood locker.
I mean, I think there's something inside Harry.
Yeah. It's very scary the first time.
Scared the absolute shit
It's a
out
very
of me
good
the
jump
first
scare.
time.
Silent Hill does not do a lot of jump scares in general. That one's a very good one though.
Oh god. Oh no. Leave me alone. Great. That's what I was hoping for. Genuinely.
Straight across,
Fuck
straight across.
off.
Straight across into the classroom and we're fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where to go in general.
Can we get to the other side? Or would we need to get to the stairs? I don't know why we can get to the stairs there.
I don't think
Unless
we
the key opens that door?
can.
We did get a key.
We got the library reserve keys, so we can
Oh.
go up past this top classroom and into the chemistry lab hall.
Yeah, we can work with that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Don't get stuck on the chair, you dingus!
I think this is the same place.
Is it?
Yeah, I think
Oh, fuck!
we needed to go through the other door.
No! It's fine. It's fine.
It's
Should only
fine.
be in orange. Not even full orange.
Just slightly orange.
Just a little orange. Tiny bit. Okay, then we go through here, but I think we can go to the roof as well.
I think we can. If you're running right, it hurts when Sloth leans forward and grabs you. It's because when the grey children, they stab you in the legs with knives when they do that.
Yeah, it's not good. To be fair, the sloths do have...
Do have big pointy fingers.
Yeah, can I... Hello. It's a hanging key. It's just out of reach. Can I put ball here first?
I think there's a different hole for ball. It's like in the middle. It's like at the
Right.
corner. Because we want the water to go into that hole with the key in it. And it won't get all the way from the valve.
Yeah. There is
Also,
hole.
It's kind of specific to get him to look at that hole.
Yeah. It's very easy to miss, and Harry won't notice it unless you're looking at the correct, 2
Yeah.
pixels.
He'll look and say, oh, there's a hole here, so you know there's, an object you can interact with, but he won't do it unless he's facing perfectly in the right direction.
Now we have to go down to a different room to get key.
Yeah, that flushes key out, and I think it goes into the courtyard.
Yeah. Lil Lucy Vert, thanks for the follow.
Nice.
Okay, back down we go.
The one with the ball's not that bad. At least it wouldn't be that bad if you could interact with the middle hole more easily.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of see that that's a problem, but if you tried to look at it and nothing's happened, it can,
It'd be a little confusing. Just a
yeah,
tiny
you can
bit.
decide that can't be the solution. And also, you don't have a hole plugging device. You have a rubber ball.
What do you mean? It's perfectly normal and good hole plugging device. Where am I? It's on the left-hand side. The door that I want to go through is on the left.
It works. It could just be maybe a little bit more obvious somehow that that's the thing that goes in hole.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as soon as you pick up the rubber ball, you are like, what could I possibly do with this? So, seeing round hole, having round objects, kind of works.
There it is. Classroom key.
Nice.
Okay. Which classrooms are locked? None of the ones here.
I'll be on the second side of the floor up there, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that now.
Yeah, because we're headed that way.
And then we don't have to go back. We can just continue forward. Let's go, Harry. throw yourself into that. That's fine.
Running into the walls will like stun him for a second, and also if there's like a step and you sprint off of it, he'll trip over. It's very funny.
Funny. It's very good.
Poor Harry.
Well, maybe he should not fall so funny.
Yeah.
Alright. Get those guys out of here.
Yeah.
And then we can go through here. Book? First aid kit. Hello?
Who needs us to get through them?
This is fine.
Yeah.
I'm not worried. What's this? Hearing this, the hunter armed with bow and arrow said, "I will kill the lizard!" But upon meeting his opponent, he held back, taunting, "Who's afraid of a reptile?" That's the furious lizard hissed, "I'll swallow you up in a single bite!" And the huge creature attacked, jaws opened wide. This was what the man wanted. Calmly drawing his bow, he shot into the lizard's gaping mouth. Effortlessly, the arrow flew, piercing the defenseless maw, and the lizard fell down dead. Hi, Nem.
I know.
This is from an old fairy tale. I remember reading it as a kid. How are you doing, friend? How's it going? Look at them handgun bullets. Fairly uneventful so far.
Did warn them that there was a hill quest.
It's a little hill quest. Well, it's not that little, really, when I think about it.
Not that little.
Kind of a big hill quest. The largest possible hill.
It's not a hill. It's a mountain.
Beautiful. I think, like, by the time we get to the second section of the town, that's when we get more lore-related stuff. At this point, you're just kind of like, I have no idea what the
weird
fuck is
stuff happening. We also start getting like 100 red herrings.
Yeah. Can I...
Silent 1 is very coy about saying anything definitively is or isn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
You do we kind of know what must be the truth from like the fact that other games in the series exist and follow on from this one.
Yeah.
But Silent 1 doesn't give you a lot of straight answers.
I appreciate that, just given that, like,
Whoa,
Harry
help her.
isn't necessarily here for answers. He's just stumbling upon all this weird shit because he just wants to find his daughter. And so, like, you don't necessarily, like, it's not like he's here to take the time to, like, sort through everything and, like, figure out what is or is not.
God.
But we unlocked this room. Is there nothing in here?
Well, it leads through. Oh yeah, there must be something. Maybe you can't get past because there's a barrier.
Yeah, that must be it. Okay, it's leave time.
Yeah, we could do a leave. Oh, he's on red.
It's fine. It's fine.
I don't know if it's fine.
It's fine. Harry hasn't died. It's fine.
It's only kind of fine.
Fuck.
It's just bugs. It's not that big a deal because
Yeah, but
they have a really hard time hitting you. It's just if there's bugs and another thing, then the
Yes.
bugs stop you aiming at them. Sorry.
I was afraid there was another thing.
Makes sense. It's a valid concern.
I think we're headed towards boss fight now, so I am gonna do a big save.
That's a good idea. Also does loop us right around to the save room again. That's cool.
Yeah. How many? Is that all we can do? No, it does give us more. Okay, cool. Not a lot of infirmary here. Significantly more infirmary saves than anything else.
We've been in this dang school for a while. 2 of it.
Been kind of a lot. Kind of a lot of school.
Oh, we have to do valve puzzle.
Oh. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's valve puzzle
Vaguely-
right now.
Wait. Left valve? It's like 2 left, 3 right, I think?
Two left turns on right valve and 1 right turn on left valve does it, but it's fine. We can just work it out. We're fine. Oh, it's not. Wait, go back 1? And then turn the other one 2 in any direction?
Turn the left 2?
No, stop turning this valve. And turn the other valve twice in the same direction. I think?
Yeah.
Puzzle genius. when you turn it, it moves the one that it's on the side of 2, and it turns the other one 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Check this one. Glad I did.
Ooh, ampoule. Didn't see that. I only saw the bullets.
Right, the ampoules are very hard to notice. Admittedly. But, you know, we should actually save now.
If we save, we will have to do the valve puzzle again if we die.
Yeah.
It's not a hard boss, but you can one-shot you, and I've been so real ahead. I did it on stream. The trick is you can walk and shoot at the same time.
Yeah.
If you're having trouble, it's because you're used to Resident Evil.
Reminder, you can move and shoot in this one. Very nice. I'll just save over that bit, because we didn't really do anything. Alright. Not that door. That door. And then we go down. And we go through Val's room. And we go to boss. Move my candy corn out of the way. So I don't spill it everywhere, because I will. Hi, big
Also, like,
guy.
Guides for this will tell you to wait until he opens his mouth and then shoot him. You'll be waiting a while because he doesn't open his mouth until he's been shot a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's big guy.
Sir. Sir.
Okay, now he's mad. Now he's gonna start doing the move you need him to do. There you go.
It's just that easy.
2 shotgun shells while he's up, and it's just done.
Bye, guy.
It can take 3, I think, but it's fine as long as you move in.
Yeah.
If you just stand there, it'll kill you in 1 hit.
Bye, Alessa. Glad I beat the boiler for you.
Huh? What was that?
Harry, did you not just hear us?
Who in the hell was that?
Harry, you have to listen.
Harry.
It's the boiler room. What's going on here? What in the heck? It's a K. Gordon key.
We can use that to unlock K Gordon.
Where is K. Gordon? Oh, I should probably swap from... I hear a church bell, I think. Where's everyone going? Bingo? I am going to reload. We're still doing good on shotgun shells. It's unlocked.
We're back in the light world.
Wonderful.
There's not a single sloth bear in sight.
Thank goodness. It's unlocked. I don't think they should have been locked at all, is the thing.
Also, kind of worth knowing, the doors back to outside just weren't there in the dark world. They just don't exist anymore in there.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck in whatever space you entered the dark world in.
That's just where you live now. I hope you're excited about that. Alright. So I'm gonna take a quick look at my map, see where we are. Got some things to look at, because we haven't really been on this side of town yet.
Yeah.
So let's wander a little.
More trash to explore for health drinks.
Yeah. Got it. Harry,
Dude,
please.
just slam.
It's like when a kid, like a toddler, runs into a sliding glass door.
Oh no. Did that happen a lot of the day?
No, fortunately we didn't have any sliding glass doors for the kids to run into.
That's a good idea.
Although I do remember a child running into just a regular door one time because they weren't looking. And it was like, hey bud, you good? Right, this takes us back to Doghouse.
Ah, okay.
And it's fine here now, actually.
It's not 100% fine, but it's a lot better.
It's fine here now, actually.
It's mostly fine. There's a single dog trying to kill us. We can deal with that.
Actually... I don't think I looked all the way at the end. No, I did.
But yeah.
Okay, well, we triple checked. Plus, it's just funny to, keep making this dog jump. And
Horrible.
miss horribly every single time.
Can't believe you do this.
Listen, I like tormenting this dog. It's a bad dog.
He is a bad dog. Don't have any skin.
Dog, where is your skin? You
Ooh,
need that
sure
dog.
we don't cut through the alley there? Or...
Maybe we do.
Am I wrong about where we are? I think we might need to cut through the alley there. I
No.
think we came from Midwich Street to get to the...
Yeah. It's fine. Means I can
Explore
go bother
away,
dog
but-
again.
Yeah,
Or
I
sleep.
guess it does.
We've kind of explored all we can here.
Yeah, and all I hear.
No.
So you're gonna get got by him?
The slide Harry did when I had him slow down. Oh. Okay, we'll just give him a moment. You good, Harry?
It's just
Okay.
poop. He's been jogging a lot.
It's true. I've been making him run so much.
He's been getting his steps in.
It's the Kate Gordon key. Me that. Give me that. Anything else?
Those are K Gardens bullets. Owl House, I remember.
Let's do just a little save.
Garden.
It's Gordon. Harry, you're stuck on the chair. Okay, thank you. It's a TV set. Power must be out because it doesn't work. It's jammed. Alright. Let's get out of here. Where does that put us? Okay.
Just on the other side of where we could get to before.
Yeah. Oops, wrong button. Alright, down we go, I guess. No, Harry. Harry!
What's Harry do? Oh, okay. We're trying to make him fall down, I understand.
Yeah, I just wanted to see him trip.
Poor lad.
I do appreciate that he gets up very quickly.
Yeah, it's really not that big a problem if he falls down.
Mm-mm. He knows he has to hustle. Alright. Got that alleyway there that we may or may not be able to access.
Oh, the dinosaurs are back.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
One of them's stuck in the trash.
That's what he gets.
Where
over
they
here.
belong? I think.
I
Oh, there's the
agree.
chainsaw store. We can't do anything with that because we're not on New Game
It's not
Plus.
New Game Plus, yeah. But this is where you would find chainsaw.
If you were in the market for a chainsaw for some reason.
Not
But
here.
Harry wouldn't
Right
take one.
here.
They don't have any petrol.
Have you considered that maybe I like my hills silent, actually? How's it going on, Ojin? How are you doing?
Oh,
The hills are so quiet. Silent. Some
we'd
might
rather
say.
the hills be silent than alive with the sound of music.
God, anything but that. Anything but that. Do we have anything cool over here? Possibly? I know I can't go in here, but I just wanted to go up the little baby steps.
Does
Oh,
look
where am
kind
I?
of goingable.
Just a
They
little
did a
bit.
pretty good job, like, of making all the buildings like a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see like copy pasted stores. I mean, maybe the front is copy pasted, but like they have
Does that say
different
Red Rum?
banners and things. That
That
says
says
Red Rum. Harry is unimpressed.
He's just real tired, is our boy.
Yeah, that too.
So sorry, buddy. Why is this circled? No reason.
Bridge is important, right? We'll
Yeah.
need that later.
We'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Alright, can't go down there. Understood.
Not even a health drink.
Not even a health drink.
Are we just following the left-hand wall?
More or less, yeah.
I can get behind this idea.
Figured you'd approve. I don't think we really need to be here right now, but we'll take a quick little peek.
I think this
Why
is where
was your
we
light
would
off?
get the fuel on a New Game Plus, right? Maybe not. Maybe this is just where you get the alternate chainsaw.
It's just the rock drill. Don't worry about it.
There's no fuel. Can't use it.
Can't use it. Useless to us. Alright, what's what we got up here? It's just bridge stuff. Map. Got shopping district map. Ooh. Health
Health
drink?
I think we need a key for this.
I think so, and I don't think we get it until after we talk to Dahlia.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm not going to save.
We'll be back
Uh,
any minute. It's
yeah.
fine.
But we need to, because we need to go to the church, and we need to go talk to Dahlia and be like, what is happening? And she's gonna talk to us, and I'm gonna be incredibly distracted by her giant novelty tie.
We have to compliment her on a giant tie before we can move on.
It's true. Give me that.
Oh, there's bullets
and
there as
give
well.
me
That's
that.
3 purple pixels.
Listen, if we talk to God, she's going to rend us, and it's gonna be bad, I think. Maybe don't talk to God in Silent Hill. You will have a
Yeah.
bad time.
It's probably not the one you're thinking of. Whichever one you're thinking of.
Any of them. They're all wrong. Hell.
It's that shell, but jeez.
Hell. Full serve.
Should bring a chainsaw over here. But those prices, never mind.
Excuse me, Harry, I'm trying to look at the gas prices. $117. Harry, this is a bad place and we need to leave.
It's the worst thing about Silent Hill. I think we did get turned around just then. Unless we wanted to peek down here.
I wanted to peek down here.
Then let's peek down here. There is this conspicuous knock.
Ah! Only because I got him stuck in a corner and it was going to be very
Yeah.
hard to grab anything.
And there were more bullets on the floor right next to you.
Yeah. We're doing real good on shotgun shells at the moment. Or we're doing really great on handgun ammo. We're doing pretty alright on shotgun shells, all things considered. How many do we have? We got 24 plus the 6 in our gun.
That's not bad.
And we've got 196 handgun bullets. I think we're gonna be okay. Alright. Is there anything else around here that I want to poke at? Nothing else I can poke at. So let's go towards the Balkan Church, but let's continue south of? Because I want to look down that street.
Makes sense.
Hi, dog. Excuse me, dog.
Gotta find Pyramid Head's hidden treasures.
Please. That's
His
the church.
buried pirate treasure.
His buried booty. Because he's got a fat dump.
I mean, we know exactly where that is.
So true. Okay, let's not be here anymore. I think. Church. There you are.
Did the reinstate Pyramid Head's ass when people complained that the
Yeah,
the
no,
removed-
absolutely.
Cool.
They gave him a fat ass when they put him in, and then they nerfed it. And then everyone fucking rioted, and within like 2 or 3 days afterwards, they put that juicy booty back in. And it was a win for the players that day.
No, the
Were you
juicy
ringing that
Pyramid Head
I've been expecting you. It was foretold by gyromancy.
Dahlia, you're a goofball, but I like your
What are
tie.
you talking about?
I knew you'd come. You want the girl, right?
My daughter?
The girl? You're talking about Cheryl.
I see everything.
You know something.
I
Tell
like
me.
that she's barefoot.
Stay back.
Spent all his
Nothing's
shoe
to be
money on
gained from
tie.
floundering around the window. You must follow the path.
What are these?
The path of the hermit
is
concealed by
happening?
flowers.
Lusty
What?
axe
What are you
bomber.
talking about?
Good grief.
Here, the flowers, a cage of peace. It can
Not the
break through the walls
flowers.
of darkness.
Dahlia,
And
you're just
counteract
trying to
the
get me
wrath
to
of the
summon
underworld.
Samael, and I don't think that's a good idea, actually.
Help you.
Also, look at that fucking tie.
Make haste to the
Huge
hospital
tie.
before
It's so big. And it does not match your
Wait,
outfit, and I
don't go
love
yet.
it so much. Your toxic juicy booty, that's fair. Talking about that thick dumpy on Pyramid Head.
I think we
That-
do need to pick up the Florus because the key is underneath it and Harry cannot
Yeah, no,
just
definitely.
pick the key.
I wanted to poke around real quick though.
That's fine.
Just pick up some other items before we get all the key items. What's this?
Just like that,
Collection
like even in
box.
repeat playthroughs, the way they make you pick up the Florus is they just put the key underneath it.
No,
You
you
can kinda see
can't
it
leave it
sticking out.
behind. You have to take it. You
Alright,
will
can
do Dahlia's bidding.
Can we just just slide the key out from under
No.
Yeah, look at that.
No, nope. And he doesn't even set it like to the side or anything. Puts it
Don't.
back exactly where he found it. I will do a save since we've gotten the Floros now. The very fine pyramid that does not go on ahead. Don't worry about that. Not Doobie Friday. Beautiful. He do be caked up though. Listen. It must be locked from the other side. Alright. Let's wait, which key did we get? Sorry.
Drawbridge key, I think.
Thank you. Time to head back.
I might have just assumed that because it was the last thing we looked at that was locked, but I think
Mm.
it was.
Well,
I
I'm
think
not
it
gonna
My brain would have noticed if it had been a different thing when you picked it up.
I'm just gonna trust you on that, and not double check anything. So, you know,
That's fair.
if we get there and it's the wrong key, it is your fault. What a lovely day for a walk in Silent Hill Purgatory Hell.
Yeah, just a little jog. Purgatory Hell. We have talked about, like, could Harry actually leave if he walked over where the, like, cracks in the floor? Would he just, like, is this an actual pit, or would he just, like, is this just an illusion? Harry would never try and leave because
Because he has to find
it's
Cheryl.
not, yeah, it's not leaving without his daughter. But, like, if he wanted to, could he?
I don't know that any other character could, but if anyone could, it would be Harry, just because he's not
directly involved.
Yeah, and this is like pre everything actually being like pre all hell literally and metaphorically being set loose. Um and so I personally don't believe that like the control or the like bleeding over that the other world is currently doing has like taken full effect. So if you like slip through, you're just there now. I don't think like that's fully gone into effect just yet, but I also don't think that like Sybil or Dahlia or any of the other like order could get out now, because I don't think Alessa would let them. Not necessarily that like Sybil's done anything, she's sort of also just fallen into this.
Yeah, but things happen with with Cheryl.
But yeah, I don't know. I think Harry could probably like get out, possibly if he wanted to, but he doesn't, because he's got to find his baby. Cheryl's out there, and it's dangerous.
I always considered the like boundaries of Silent Hill like more of like a video gamey thing than a like law relevant thing. It's like, don't go over here, there's no items, rather than like you're actually trapped here, because no one even in the later games, no one's like trying to leave, right? Once it kind of sucks you in, you don't like want to leave.
Well, I guess like that's the thing, is that because whatever
Keeps
is
you
motivating them to be
occupied.
there, they're just kind of like, oh, I just need to be here and check in on this, or is that because of like some influence that the town, the space has on them, of just being like, actually consider some light suggestion to just not leave. You just want to remain here. That's one thing that we're here to find out. See if we can piece that together while we're playing.
You do see that the characters in Silent Hill are not like operating 100% while they're in Silent Hill.
There is definitely not firing on all cylinders. Can you not kick me in the head, please? Rude. Oh. Fuck off! Police station. It's jammed.
Heck.
Ah!
Oh, it's the Wiggly Man.
I forgot about those boys.
Those boys.
Oof. Also, can we... It's just a pyramid-shaped object found in the church. Purpose and use unknown. Don't really have any other important items in our inventory that I want to check anything on. Description's not important. We're trying to get to the... Oh, right, we're trying to get to the hospital. Oh, fuck. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's hospital time.
Those men make horrible sounds, the jumping boys.
They're horrible. Fans! Don't like them. Buffalo Chief. I cannot. Okay. Didn't think so, but might as well always check. Harry, I need you on the sidewalk, bud.
Oh my god, I'm gonna mute for a minute. Coughing man's coming by.
Oh, jeez. Could not hear him, but do what you gotta. Coughing man, please. Oh, it's the antique shop. I don't think I need to be in here just yet, but I'm gonna come in here anyway. Never mind. Mr. Dragon Critter. That's fair. Could hear him approaching. We do need to remember the antique store for later. I think we have to go through there.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone here doesn't watch Flaw Peacock on YouTube, you should. He's very good. He will ask you to keep a lot of things in mind, and your brain will want to explode. But it's fine. He'll come back to it. It'll all make sense in the end. Just keep it in mind.
I can only keep so many things in mind. I think a coughing man got through there, sorry.
Oh. That's fine. Maybe no one heard it because I was yelling. Bullets. Gib. I don't really need them, but I'll take them. Gib. I should probably check, map. I hear a jumping man. Oh, I've made my way to the hospital.
Oh, dang, nice!
Kinda just went in a giant circle instead of exploring any of the other streets, which is not what I meant to do.
That's fine. It's not going anywhere.
Did you hear that?
There was like a ball bouncing noise?
Was it a ball bouncing or was it like shooting?
Oh, it could have been shooting.
PlayStation 1 shooting.
Could have been either.
There's definitely a sound from the hospital.
Definitely a sound from the PlayStation.
Very true. Okay, any cool things over here? Oops, wrong button. That's fine. Burger place. Oh god. Oh god, I can hear a pterodactyl.
Oh jeez, I was gonna ask what the burger place is called, but it's fine if we're being chased by pterodactyls.
I mean, we can try and head back, but I needed to not be in those,
Go away.
Konami burger.
Oh, okay. Konami burger.
Ah!
I know what that's in reference to, I think.
Oh? You have to share now.
So there's this company that makes pachinko machines.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a deeper thing in there.
And they also sometimes used to make Silent Hill.
Lock is jammed.
But now they get Bloober Team to do that. because they completely demolished the video game production wing of their
Why?
company.
I'm sorry. There's a jump back button? Are you shitting me?
I genuinely didn't know. It doesn't even seem much faster than just walking backwards, though.
I've played this game how many times, and I have only just found a jump back? I think we fight a moth up here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we can wheel later.
Did you know that if you hold the run button while strafing, you strafe faster,
I didn't.
as opposed to his very, very slow shuffle?
The croc legend of the Galbars, little waddle sideways.
I knew about the fast shuffle. Didn't know about the jump back. It does, I mean, you don't need it, is the thing. I have
No.
played this game so many times and have never needed it. I don't even need the fast shuffle, really. All things considered.
Walking sideways is probably not what you want to be doing in like a fight, and walking backwards will probably get you out of the range of whatever's trying to hit you.
Right? Dog, please. Okay, we need to go this way. Slow down just a little bit to give Harry a moment. What is this? Steak and brew burger.
Yeah. Open for your pleasure.
Thanks, steak and brew burger. I heard a pterodactyl.
The bad creatures.
I just don't like that they punch me in the head.
Was that show called Disco Disco? Ah!
Yeah. Ah, fuck! It's fine. Oh, but there's a health drink over there. Fuck off!
You have to mash the buttons when they get on you, or it just fucking kills you.
Trying.
They do so much damage. It might not be worth the health pack. The health drink.
It.
There's two horrible jumping men in the way.
I know. But I want it.
This is where I learned that you need to mash the buttons when you get grabbed. Is that bad?
It's broken over there.
I don't know what I'm talking about. It's fine.
Again.
Because if you don't mash all the buttons real quick, they'll just not leave.
Oh no, I hear a man. Okay.
Hey, jumping man.
Hospital. Hospital.
We'll try and get that health drink later. If then, hopefully they won't be in the way forever.
I'm not gonna remember that it's there. Gone forever.
It's a trap.
I know.
It's
and
a
it makes
cunning
me
ploy
sad.
from
Fuck.
the jumping man.
Alright. Ah! Ah!
It's fine.
Oh god. Let's take a
Jumping
moment, Harry.
guys are actually like one of the most dangerous enemies in the game. I fucking hate them.
They're horrible and awful.
And they make
Don't like
awful
them.
sounds.
Yeah, just a lot of awful, heavy breathing.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
confident
yeah.
shooting. I
Yeah,
remember.
it is. He's bouncing the ball in there. Also, remember to go to the map before you go to the Dark World.
I always remember the map. Here's the thing. Always remember map.
It'd be really annoying if you forgot the map.
It'd be really unfortunate to have to go through the whole of the hospital section without a map. Can you imagine how awful that would be?
Can't imagine how awful that would be.
Hey Kaufman, you shooting kids in here? What you doing, bud?
Hold it!
He missed.
Stop! Don't shoot!
And we were that close.
Wait! I'm not here to fight. My name is Harry Mason. I'm in town on vacation.
Thank God, another human being.
Do you work here?
Kaufman is a bad man?
I'm Dr. Michael
Yeah.
Kaufman. I work at this hospital.
So maybe you can tell me what's going on.
I really can't say. I was taking a nap in the
Is
staff
that a
room.
pterodactyl,
When I woke up,
actually?
it was like this.
In here?
Everyone seems to have
That's
disappeared.
tough.
And it's snowing out. This time of year.
Looks pterodactyl
Something's gone
colored.
seriously wrong.
Kinda looks like it's got a wing.
Did you see those monsters?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen such aberrations? Ever even heard of such things? You and I both know creatures like that don't exist.
But they do.
Have you seen a little girl anywhere? I'm looking for my daughter. She's only 7, short, black hair.
She's missing. I'm sorry.
Rip, bud.
But with all those monsters around, I highly doubt that she's... Sorry, I didn't mean to alarm you. Your wife, she's here with you?
She died 4 years ago. Now it's just me and my daughter.
I see. I'm sorry. Well, I'd better be going. I can't just sit around here doing nothing.
So long. Good luck out there.
That's a pterodactyl. It's the most likely thing from that kind of shape.
Right?
So that's Kaufman. He knows
That's a
a
pterodactyl.
lot more about what's going on than he's telling us. That's a pterodactyl.
Yeah. Kaufman. Oh, go for it.
Sorry. No one's like very helpful ever, but he does confirm that like Harry's not just crazy, that the monsters are real. Other people are seeing this too.
Mm-hmm. Not just you, buddy. Give me that
So
map.
that's nice.
Give me
I
that.
think he genuinely doesn't know that like Harry's daughter would be important because
No, he
Yeah.
doesn't believe in anything that the cult is doing. He's just
yeah, he's
using them as a means to run his drug empire. We'll get
And-
into that.
yeah. Now things are actually starting to happen. He's got cold feet and he wants to
Yep.
not be in Hell World anymore, ideally.
I mean, same. We need to make sure that we get the Goopus before we go to the
do.
other world.
We can get after, I think, on the way out.
No, you
Oh.
cannot.
Okay, do we have the bottle?
We do not. So
Do you remember where Bottle lives?
I don't, but I do have a spoiler-free guide to make sure that I remember where everything is, because I remember the steps that we have to take to do good plus ending. I just don't always remember where everything is located, and it's been like 3 or some odd years since I've played this one, so we need to
Poor
we
Harry.
also need to wait. must read something in the... Yeah, why is he still just... Bud?
He's very tired. He's not stopping.
Harry, we good?
He's huffing and puffing.
Well, I'll just keep letting him huff and puff.
Oh no.
While I look where we need to go. Bottle is in the kitchen. But there's a thing that I need to read at the police station, but we couldn't get in there.
Do we have to do that before this?
Yes. It's
I don't know
recommended.
why.
I don't think it's required. I think
Yeah,
the only
maybe
thing that
more
we
jumping man out
Yeah.
later.
So let me just take a quick peek. Where is kitchen? Kitchen is through medicine room. Past medicine room. Let me go grab that bottle first while we're thinking about it.
Yeah, just get the goop situation solved.
Yeah.
The goop thing no one has ever worked out on their own.
Kitchen in the director's office. Okay. I assume that this is locked. Yeah. And I assume the other one is locked too. There is no other one just yet. I'm on the wrong side for the other one. I understand. Yeah. We just gotta get some gunk for later. Don't worry about it. Harry, you're just really having a hard time, aren't you? I need to read this. Article's been clipped out. That's only important for later.
Oh.
Just keep the fact that the article has been clipped out in mind.
Gonna make us go all the way around every time game, jeez.
Kitchen is 2 up, so not this one.
We'll be more
This one.
thorough about it later after we've got all the stuff we need.
Yes. Like I said, there's
There's
just
a health
this.
drink though.
Yep. We'll grab that plastic bottle. Nothing else around here, but we'll grab that. Harry, are you winded because we're hurt? Is that... Yeah.
Oh, that might be it. Yeah, those guys do so much damage.
Yeah, he's fine now. Okay.
Don't wanna get
Understood.
jumped on.
Yeah, it's a bad thing to do. And then this is the director's office. What's this? Hospital basement map. There's a specific reason why it's in the director's office and not included with the main map. Don't worry about it. Just for anyone who's looking at that being like, why is that not? Say that there should be.
That was my first thought was why is that not just part of the full map? But it makes sense.
Because most of the staff doesn't know about the basement, or at least is not allowed to go in the basement. I was told that there should be some red liquid in here.
I think that's the red liquid where we started. Wait, next to in the room next to. Sorry, no, I'm totally wrong. Is it in the back? Where's the you'd know the goop room when you go in the goop room. There's very obvious goop. This is a
Yeah.
doctor's office also, not the director's office.
Oh, that's because okay, I'm an idiot.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. I just saw D office and was like, yep, director's office. That's fine.
Noticing the goop, very easy. Realizing the goop is important in any way to anything, you probably need a
not
guide.
so much. Yeah. It's and especially since it is only available like now. You can't come back and get it later. As mentioned, there's goop. Glass vial lies shattered. It's not just broken, it's been smashed to bits. Well, let's scoop up that red liquid in some of that glass just for good measure.
Just in case. We need goop.
What's this? What's what, buddy?
What's
Harry,
what's
what?
goop?
He said, let's collect this. What's this? It's like, well,
There's
it's
a book on the table, sorry.
no, this is fine.
I don't know if it's important, but I mean, while we're here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those
never
books are
mind.
scattered around the desk.
Doesn't like reading. Not a big reader, Harry.
Harry's got other, more important, more Cheryl-related tasks to pay attention to right now.
He can read children's books, and he can read little hastily scrawled notes written in blood or whatever. Anything else is just gonna take too much time.
Yeah, he doesn't have time for that. He's gotta go. Whiteboard, nothing special written here. I see that key.
Give me that key! I need that key!
That key. It's a basement key. Okay, even though we didn't find the basement map with the regular map, it still makes sense that they wouldn't put the basement map with the regular map, because they don't want other people to know about basement. Other people don't need to go into basement. Lock is jammed. Lock is jammed. Lock is jammed. Is that all the doors in this corridor? Yes, except for the ones at the very end, but we can look at those later. I do want to run to the cop shop.
Yeah. Sorry, no, that's important.
Yeah. Which, like, we checked, but maybe I checked the wrong door. That's entirely
Yeah, I
possible.
remembered being able to go in, but I didn't say anything, because I was like, I guess I must have misremembered.
We'll save over reception again, because we have the gunkus we need. Oh, never mind. I guess we have to do the hospital now. Alright! That's fine. It should be fine. There's just there's a note that is important.
Yeah, it didn't
There.
go full weird after the hospital, right? We're good to...
I think it gets a little weird post-hospital, but then
It's the one after the hospital where it goes, like, full weird, and then you can't backtrack at all, I think.
yeah. Hold on, considering... When
Could
was the
load an
last
LA
time I
save if we need
saved?
to.
Yeah. And if we're gonna do that, we should do that now. Because I don't want to get through the hospital and then have to do all of it again, you know? About 15 minutes. We didn't really... We got...
That's
a
not
bit,
too
didn't
bad
we?
at all. We just kind of ran here.
Yeah...
I don't think we found that much stuff. It was mostly the blundering around inside. That's that 15 minutes, I think.
We did find shotgun shells, though. But
Do
I
you
think I
remember
remember
where we
where those
found-
are. Kind
Okay.
of.
Yeah, down the stairs, right?
Yeah. And there were some down the stairs, and then there were some in that little, like, nook, where a truck was, like a semi-truck
Truck nook.
was. Truck nook. So we're going to restart. That's
Where
not
reset?
here. We close game. Reset system. There we go.
We should probably get the note just to be safe.
Yeah.
This is fine. I'm gonna run to the loo real quick though. I'll be right back.
Do it! It's just gonna be us running around for a couple of minutes while we try and get into Cop Store. Because there's a note in there, as well as I think not necessarily like a hint, but like a necessary prerequisite before we do like the motel stuff. Thank you for the hydrate. Not continue. Fuck. I didn't mean continue. Harry. We'll just do that again. It's fine. I'm just gonna spill my water on me just a little bit because I don't know how to drink. Never. I will never carefully dink my oiter. I will always dink it in a mess of a way. Alright, let's load up Blurry Harry. Don't think he should be that blurry. It's fine though. Alright. We got a cop shop should be like immediately across the bridge and to the north. Welcome back.
I'm back, sorry.
Oh, it's all good. And the good items that we found should be right there as well. Because the stairs are like here. Not here. But like here. This
Like
general
here.
location. Somewhere near here.
We didn't find like too much stuff.
Nah, but I want those shotgun shells is the main thing. And there
Absolutely, get your stuff.
were like and there was like a health kit or two, like not just like a health drink, but like a first
Yeah, I
aid
thought there
kit.
were a health kit.
Um
I'm remembering the shotgun shells and the health kit that were on the other side of the bridge though, and I think we've already got those on this serve.
Okay, that's good and fine. I didn't mean to grab my map. I wanted to check my inventory. Ah, we've got 30.
Yeah.
30. I know how to math.
30 shotgun.
Yeah, that's, like, a lot. Oh god. Oh god. Oh fuck. Oh god. Okay. Lock is jammed. Is there another door for cop place? Fuck! Shit. Shit.
Hey!
There's another door for cop place. Okay! We're here now.
Next time I think I remember something else. There is definitely bullets there, Harry. What are you talking about?
There we go. He just wasn't looking at them? Also,
And
I see
shotgun
those.
shells.
Yeah, I see those. Give me those. Alright. Something on it. Product only available in selected areas of Silent Hill. Raw material is White Claudia, a plant peculiar to the region. Manufactured here? Dealer equals manufacturer? I will wait to save.
Did you check that, like, white thing on the table? Sorry.
Harry, please.
'Cause it just looks like a note you'd be able to read on the other
Right.
side.
I think I tried, but apparently I missed
Nah,
it.
maybe you didn't get the perfect pixel.
Right. It's memo on the desk. Coroner seal's called. Officer Gucci. Officer Gucci is unlikely to be murdered. He apparently died naturally. But medical records show Officer Gucci had no prior symptoms of heart disease. Alright. Rip
He was
Officer
not.
Gucci. He was
In
not
fact, Gucci.
Gucci. Bad name.
I'm glad we came here, because there's fucking tons of bullets and things.
Give me that. Yeah. Yeah. But then we came here. That's locked. Can I go back here? No. So that's all we can really do here, isn't it? Is just to find out that they're talking about something made out of White Claudia, some drugs made from a plant only found in Silent Hill, and that some officer died of natural causes and definitely not murder. I'll save the
Crowley.
bridge.
Okay. I was gonna say we can save our reception now since
Yeah.
we've gone back in time.
Yeah. Nothing else in here. Time to leave and just fucking run.
We have to solve the mysteries of Silent Hill. We have to find out who was Claudia.
Who was Silent Hill? Claudia is in the second, or in the third game.
Why is she so white?
Well, because she is. I was trying to think of something clever to say, and nothing came to me. It's fine.
There is nothing clever to be said.
No.
It wasn't very funny. I raged when I went away because Nem redeemed the hydrate, and then I realized I didn't have any water, by the way. So it's all Nem's fault.
I know we can't go in here, but
Yeah, we definitely
just
come
check
in later.
it. I think that's the Silent Hill History Society or some such nonsense.
That's where there was a door here once. It's gone now, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, that's like the bit where it never stops being weird, I think.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
Okay, it's not here. That's fine, we know now. Maybe it's down by Burger Town. Konami Burger.
Ramirez gets Burger Town. That's a Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it is. That is why I am calling everything Burger Town now, unfortunately.
Hi, you two as
Yeah, we
rating with a
both-
party of
also choose
15.
here.
Kaysh and the
Hi,
gang
Chew!
welcome you.
Oh god. Oh fuck. Oh god. Hi friends, how's it going? How are you doing? While I have this menu up.
Getting chased by pterodactyls a little bit, but we're
It's a
broadly
problem.
good to chat.
Right? Oh, you were playing White Day? How is it? I have not played that game in literal years. And I remember wanting to do a strangle on a thing towards the end of it. The controls are an absolute nightmare. It is very creepy. But yeah, that's fair and valid. But I hope it ends up being a good time and you enjoy it overall. It's neat. It's a neat little game. But welcome in, friends. I think most of you know me, but in case you don't, my name is Kayshurrr. You can call me Kaysh. I use they, them pronouns. My friend FruitySpruce is here with us. They use any pronouns. And we have taken it upon ourselves to play every single Silent Hill game ever. Well, all that are available to us to try and objectively prove why the post-Team Silent Hill ones are actual ass. Yeah.
Can't play the Silent Hill pachinko machine, unfortunately. That's only in Japan.
Pachinko machine unavailable. The arcade cabinet unavailable. There is one of the mobile
We
games.
were looking all this up yesterday.
Yeah, which kind of, I think, sparked this desire to. Well, it's been something that I've been thinking about for a while, but the conversation yesterday definitely made me be like, nah, we gotta do this. But yeah, thank you, Chew, for the raid. I really, really appreciate it. Get out of here. Go do and eat. I appreciate you for raiding, and if anybody needs to, like, raid and run, that's completely understandable. We're probably gonna wrap up soon because I just realized that we've been streaming for like 3 hours. Oopsies.
Oh, we should probably like just make sure we're on the good ending path when we get to the
Yeah,
hospital.
no,
and call
definitely.
it. Yeah.
But we will be here for a little bit longer. But yeah, I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone who came over. I'm gonna pick up this health drink and try not to get got by the horrible pterodactyl. I think there's bullets over here.
Yeah. I'm
Ah!
impressed that you remembered the bullets. Did get got by the pterodactyl though.
Get got. He got me. I don't know what our health is at currently.
Yeah,
which
we
is...
might not be doing good because we did get jumped on.
Fuck!
We were not doing good. Okay, I thought you died.
This is pre getting jumped on, but we are getting kicked in the head. So that sucks a lot. This is the way to the hospital. The hospital is just like right over here. Just swear to God, if this guy gets me again, I'm going to scream. Sir? Fuck off.
Got zig and zag.
There is the burger place.
You have to stop? You have to stop?
Oh my God.
You're not allowed to chase us this far.
Sir, I'm way
Unbelievable.
past where you should be. Harry, you need to not stop.
So you don't go here.
Okay.
This is where Harry goes.
It's true.
Oh, you can just walk straight. Okay, I didn't know you could just walk over there. I thought there were holes in the floor.
Oh God, I saw some pterodactyl gummies.
I saw some teeth from the inside.
Not the inside teeth. I am gonna check the end of the street because I want those shotgun shells that I know exist in a little silly truck nook. And this is not it. Okay.
I don't remember the truck nook. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Was it? Did we go down Wilson Street?
Maybe. I thought Truck Nook was next to like a gap, so maybe that's something that we've already done as well on the other side of Silent Hill. Truck Nook is
Could've
where
been.
Dog
yeah, we
got
did.
stuck on corner.
Yeah, but I think that were before. I think that were right before we went
Okay.
over the bridge.
Okay.
Because
Well.
that and the stairs.
Yeah.
The stair shotgun shells, those were both on the other side, I think. In
I mean,
hindsight.
At this point, I am inclined to agree, because we've looked at all the places where the road just ends and it's nothing there. No truck nooks.
It's nothing good over here, only horrible men who jump on you.
Yeah. I am gonna just quickly run down the streets to see,
That's fine.
because
You
maybe
gotta.
I can be fast and quick and grab that health drink that those horrible jumpy men were hiding from me. This is not where I want to be.
This is the wrong place.
Yep. I crossed the street too soon. I need to turn around
We
and
need to...
then take a right. Sir, please.
Jumping man.
It's fine. I'm faster than him. I
Very
don't have to
slightly
skip.
faster than him.
Okay, we go this way. Hi, dog. Dog? Dog, do you know about Truck Nook?
Dog was at Truck Nook. Is Truck Nook past Dog? I thought because there were like a little bit on the map where you could see there was like a thing.
Yeah.
The Truck Nook. So I think it was at the other side.
Yeah.
Maybe Dog knows secrets that we don't.
Dog secrets.
Hot dog!
Hot dog! No, not you, dog. Other dog. Okay, and then we'll take a right.
We're looping around to get that dang health drink.
Possibly. I'm also just checking all the streets because I don't remember where anything is, even though we were, like, just here. Fuck off!
Don't want to
Horrible
be running
creature.
around too long, because you do get kicked in the head by pterodactyls a lot while you're out here.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yes!
Ah!
It was not worth it! It's just a health drink, but you got the health drink and you didn't even die.
It's worth it because we didn't get got, is the
Yeah.
thing.
Ah, it wasn't worth the stress to me, I think.
What do you mean? Get me in there, and then we watch out for dogs. Fuck!
Did
Ran
not
too
watch out for
far.
dogs.
I attempted to watch out for dogs, and it did not work out in my favor. Okay. Then we wait to save. Kaufman, please. We can skip this because we've seen it.
I've seen Kaufman be the worst shot in history.
It's true.
We need the map, and then we
right.
need the bottle, and then the goop.
Mm-hmm.
And also the basement map from the doctor's office.
Yeah.
And I think there was some health drinks and stuff around.
Yeah.
It is a hospital. One might expect to find a health drink.
Be weird to not have health drinks or first aid kits lying around in a hospital, just generally.
Yeah.
Okay, hospital map got. First aid kit got. How are we on health? We're fine, right?
Did
We were
get kicked in
fine.
the head a few times. It's fine.
Yeah, but that was all pterodactyls. It wasn't the jumping men. So still worth. Can't go through that door. I have to go here. And then over here. Actually, nothing helpful. Alright. Keep it in mind that the article's been clipped out. It's important for later. Lock is jammed. Lock is jammed. This is the doctor's office, where we have the basement map.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
The
Do you have
basement
the
map doesn't
basement?
have like anything suspect on it, right? It's just the secret rooms in the basement, so they don't want people to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a normal basement. Definitely no horrible torture room.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's nice down there, but you're not allowed down there. It's not that nice. Alright, let's get that bottle and that health drink. Bottle. Please.
They have to go to so much trouble just for like one sacrifice. It'd be really weird if they were getting like hundreds of them from like another town right next door.
Right?
That'd just be so much work. That's so much effort. Why would they do that?
It's so unnecessary.
I think that's not the situation. You do have to get in like the right pixel to.
Yeah. I mean, that's like everything
Yeah.
in this game, though.
Just some of the stuff is just too small an area to interact with.
Mm-hmm. Remaining liquid
It's
has
a
been emptied into
recurring
the plastic
problem.
bottle.
Which does mean not only do you have to like get the bottle and then realize this isn't blood, which is never like told to you. Because if it were blood, it just wouldn't be anything and you wouldn't be able to interact with it, so who cares? But then you have to like, yeah, even if you try and mess with it, it won't necessarily work.
Yeah. I think it, like, generally with these kinds of games, you just, like, if you have an item and there's a thing that looks like maybe potentially you could interact with it. You just gotta wiggle around it a few times with the item and try to interact, and after, you know, like 5 or 6 failed attempts, then just say, maybe it doesn't actually go here. And then come back another 15 minutes later to try it again, just in case.
Just in case. It's not too bad once you get to the right spot. I don't know, you still need to know it's important, I guess.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
feel
very
like-
missable.
Oh, 100%. You can just zoom on past it. Not even know it's a thing.
And that's the thing for the good ending, right? It's not for the, like, plus.
No, this is, I think, exclusively for the plus ending.
Okay.
You can get good ending without Liquid. Liquid is specifically for saving Sybil.
Right.
And you don't need to save Sybil to get the good ending, but you do in order to get good plus.
There's like 2 different conditions for the best ending, and one of them is bad or good, and then the other one is plus or no plus. We want good plus, so we have to do both.
I think for most of the games we'll probably shoot for like the whatever is considered canon ending.
It's
until we
not
get
that.
bored with that, but for this
Like-
one the only difference is whether or not Sybil gets out, really.
In
So.
like Homecoming, we should probably go for the joke ending first, since you can get the joke ending first, and that'll annoy you
Yeah.
most. Like in Silent Hill 2, I think you can do any ending, 'cause none of them are confirmed
they're
as canon,
all-
and yeah.
They're all technically canon, outside of like the UFO ending.
Yeah, the ones you can get on a first run. Because it would be weird if you could get the joke ending on the first run. That'd be a terrible decision to make.
Be very strange. Not necessarily a great choice, you know, to make it so that the joke ending is the one that you can get first. It's gonna get Harry up in there.
Yeah.
Hi, Harry. How's it going, buddy? How you feeling? Probably not good.
I am for good ending in Shattered Memories, but we might have just looked at too many things. You never know.
Yeah, I figure with like
Sucks if it happens, but whatever.
I feel like with like when I say I want to go for canon endings in the games, I think I'm specifically going for like the main 4, or the original 4, just because they're good and I think that they're worth the effort. I might look into the conditions for some of the other ones and see if it's like
We did talk
too
about,
out
but I
of
think it
way.
was before stream. The good ending without the plus is probably canon for Silent Hill 1, but you learn more about the situation with the plus, so we
Yeah.
are gonna go for that.
Yeah. So that's that. I am still, I mean, we've only just started, but I'm incredibly excited to do this silly, stupid project that we have
Me too.
landed on. But I think for now, we're gonna call it here, and see who is on that we can raid into. I currently only have flowers on, so
I've
let's go
only
say
got
hi to
flowers on.
flowers.
We have a lot of the same people. It's kind of a problem.
I mean, is it though? It's fine. If anyone is going to do the raid with us, there are our raid messages. I'm sorry that Chatbot decided to throw in the content warnings in the middle of that. But first one is for everyone. It's got global emotes. Second one is for sub. It's got our channel specific emotes. Why is Twitch not muting the chat? It's fine. Possibly doing more of this tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see.
I should be down.
I should also be down, but you know, sometimes things change.
Yeah, it does. I shouldn't have said anything. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Tentative plan is to do more Silent Hill tomorrow, but you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Thanks Fruity for hanging out and playing Silent Hill with me.
Love Silent.
It's good.
Genuinely really love Silent Hill, and Silent Hill 1 is possibly the best one. Just
Definitely.
objectively, I don't know.
Definitely the best one. 3 has a special place in my heart. But 1 is by far like the best. But yeah, we'll see y'all later, friends. Bye.
Bye.